Hey gardeners, Amy here with Garden Up. Today I'm going to show you how to cover all of your tender perennials in preparation for winter. So every year before it gets really cold, we tend to cover a few of our different perennials with pine needles, and that is to protect them from the winter cold so that they can stay warm and happy and healthy and come back with vigor the following spring. Last year in 2020, I believe it was the second week of October, we had that hard freeze that lasted a week and a half almost, and it froze the ground and it froze the plants. It was the one where it snowed and the trees hadn't even dropped their leaves, so everything was falling, the weight was too much, the trees were falling over and breaking and cracking. It was terrible. But another effect of that we didn't notice until this year was that the hydrangeas didn't bloom. And that happened because the buds that were just starting to set on these leaves had frozen and they died. And so all of the new flower buds had just died and they couldn't grow this year. So this year, 2021, even though it's only the middle of September right now, I want to cover these and make sure that that doesn't happen again. So my goal is to get all of my hydrangeas covered by October 1st, as well as certain other tender plants. I'm thinking Heucheras, I'm thinking Crocosmias, I'm thinking Hypericum, and probably Euphorbias. Anything that's a zone 6 or higher, because even though we are technically zone 6B in Spokane, I'm just not ready to buy into that yet. I still plan my gardens to be zone 4 and 5. So anything that's zone 6, I'm going to be covering. So I'm going to show you specifically hydrangeas, but also all of the other things that I am going to cover. So starting with hydrangeas, you're going to need at least a full bucket of pine needles. Probably more depending on the size of your hydrangea. And you're probably going to want gloves. I forgot mine today, so I'll just suck it up. I'm going to use a claw to grab the pine needles. And all you do is you wrap the pine needles around the base and then you fill some inside the plant. So here we go. Just take some and I kind of pull them around the bottom, lift up the branches, get them right underneath there. It feels so weird doing this to a plant that's still fully leafed out, but it's so close to the end of September that it's just, I'm not going to risk this not blooming for another year. So now doing this much keeps a nice blanket around the base, so it'll keep the cold away from the crown. And that's the part that's really tender, that if that gets too cold, the whole plant dies. The other thing I'm going to do is take some pieces, spread the branches open a little bit, just kind of tuck them down in. This is easier to do when there's no leaves. Alright, here's a closer view. Just right down in there. Just very gently and carefully put the pine needles down. Usually when we do this, the leaves have already fallen off, and all I do then is I take a good handful of pine needles and I sprinkle them over the top, and then they fall in between the branches, and that works really well. But this guy's still photosynthesizing, so I don't want to completely cover it yet. Lastly, with hydrangeas, what I do is I make a little chimney. I just kind of pull the pine needles away so there's a little chute so that if heat does build up underneath there, it can get out. I'm not entirely sure of the reasoning for that, but it's what I was taught and it seems to work, so I just do it and I don't question it. You know, maybe I should, I don't know. Anyway, make a little chimney in the top and then you're done. So the other things I'm going to be covering are Heuchera, Hypericum, Crocosmia, Euphorbia, and obviously roses, which I already have a video on. I can link that down in the description in case you want full details on how to cover roses, because there are a few more steps with those ones. Lastly, because I'm in the business of making things really neat and tidy, I always rake up my mess. Any pine needles that are down around the area, just kind of rake them in and add them to the plant that you're covering so that the area left behind is nice and tidy. Okay, covering Heucheras. That's even a little much. But yeah, that's fine. You just kind of sprinkle them on, just make a little blanket. Tuck them in. them in for winter. These little Hypericums I planted last fall as well, they did not do well in the winter, and I'm not sure if that's because I didn't water them enough when I planted them, or if it was the cold. So in order to prevent that from happening again this year, I have already watered them really well. It rained last night, and I've watered the xeristicate bed pretty deeply a couple of weeks ago. And now I'm going to cover them with pine needles just in case that was the problem, and hopefully that'll keep that crown nice and warm so that they come back stronger and bigger next year and they really are happy here. So let's do that. So I'm leaving the leaves out where they can still photosynthesize. It's not the leaves that are going to be damaged by the cold, it's usually the crown, down at the base where the stems meet the roots. That's the part that has to stay warm in order for the plant to survive and thrive. This one even still has a berry on it. Super cute. So this Euphorbia minor's Merlot is zone 6, and when I planted it last year, this one didn't do well. That one did alright, but it still struggled. It came back though. This one, I don't know if it's completely dead yet or not, but lesson learned, these do need to be covered. I even said when I was filming the video when I was planting this, that I should probably cover them. So now, I'm going to make sure to cover both of these for this winter. This one's going to be easy since I cut it down, it was all dead. I'm just going to cover it up with this. Now with this one, I'm not cutting this down. That one was dead. It's not going to be a problem, but the cold is actually going to get into the plant through cuts. So I'm not bringing this down. I'm just going to wrap some pine needles around it. Just a little bit of a blanket to keep the cold from rolling into the crown area and keep some of the cold off the top. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, make sure to tell me by hitting the like button down below, subscribe if you haven't done that already, and then leave a comment if you learned something or if you have a question or idea for another video you'd like to see. Let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can put together for you. Thanks for watching. See you in the garden.